okay, when I complete the square, what I want to do is I actually want it to look like this. So the problem you're going to see, it's going to end kind of like this one. So what I want is something in parentheses squared equals a number. Now, how do I do that? Well, I'm going to factor. And what I want is that when I factor like, I want the two numbers that I factor, like, oh, it has to add to this and multiply to this. I want the two numbers to be the same, okay? So that's my goal. So here's the process. I'm going to get rid of this constant. I'm going to move it to the other side. Okay, I'm just getting it out of my way for right now, because here's what's going to happen. I'm going to add a number on both sides next. So I'm leaving myself a space for that number just to make my life easier. So 28 minus 6, that's 22. So I'm going to add a number on both sides. Now, what is the number? Here's what the number is. My goal is that I'm going to take this and I'm going to factor it. And remember, when I factor, I need two numbers that add to this and multiply to this. Okay, so if I want two numbers that add to this, now here's the thing, I want the numbers to be the same. I want these two numbers to be the same, and I want them to add to negative 14. So what are two numbers that are the same and they add to negative 14? And the way that I find that number is I say, oh, it's going to be negative 14 divided by 2. So that's negative 7. So the two numbers that I factor, and I say, oh, these two numbers add to negative 14, and they're the same. Okay. Now remember, these two numbers, I'm going to multiply them to get this. So what's negative 7 times negative 7? It's 49. So that's how I decide I'm going to add 49 here. And of course, if I add 49 on one side of the equation, I have to add 49 on the other side of the equation, like always. Now, this was just kind of a note to myself. The way that I'm going to write this, x minus 7 times x minus 7, is like this. X minus 7 squared. That's how I write something times itself, right? Equals, let's do this math, 22 plus 49, that is 71. Okay, now look, that problem looks just like that problem. Here we go. I'm going to square root both sides because this is being squared, so I'm going to square root. So square root and squared cancel. I'm left with x minus 7 equals. This is the part where I square root 71, and I might say, oh, 71, what's the square root of 71? So I put this in my calculator, and I say, oh, I don't deal with that. So I'm just going to write like this, plus or minus the square root of 71. I just don't deal with it if it's not a clean number. But I still need to have x by itself, so I'm going to go ahead and add 7 on both sides because I like to have x by itself. So this x equals, watch how I write this, 7 plus or minus the square root of 71. Just like that.